James H., or Jim Driscoll, was born on August 27th, 1874, in Ozark County, Missouri. He was the fifth of six children born to Sarah Jane Bird and John Art Driscoll. When Jim was born, his father was 36 and his mother was 37. Both of Jim's parents had lived long lives before they ever met one another. His mother, Sarah, was first married to a man named Hugh Egan, and together they had two children. One of those children, Benjamin Egan, rests in Parsons Cemetery, and it turns out I cleaned his grave. It's always fascinating to me how the lives of these early Ozark families were intertwined with each other, and often I don't find out about this until months later after I've cleaned the grave when I'm sitting down to do this research. Sarah and Hugh Egan eventually divorced each other, and she went on to meet John. Jim's father, John Driscoll, had also been married before to a woman named Matilda Sanders. They had three children together before Matilda passed away at a young age. After John and Sarah married, they blended their families and had six more children of their own, 11 in total. Jim's father, John, was a Civil War veteran, though his service was cut short. After just 6 months, he received a medical discharge when a severe case of measles settled in his lungs. Jim grew up in the quiet hills of Ozark County, surrounded by his large blended family, and he worked the land alongside his parents. Where Ida's maiden name is concerned, Google says it could either be pronounced Gimlin or Gimlin. I'm going with Gimlin, but if you're in her family tree and you know the correct way to pronounce it, let me know. Ida Isabella Gimlin was born on October 16, 1875, also in Missouri. She was the fourth of 5 children born to Travis Jackson Gimlin and Mary Jones. When Ida was 4 years old, the 1880 census recorded her family living in Willow Springs, Missouri. Her mother kept the household while her father worked as a farmhand for another man. At just 16 years old, Ida married 23-year-old Frank Fullington in August of 1892. It doesn't appear the couple ever had children, and not long after marrying, they divorced. 6 years later, on August 28, 1898, 22-year-old Ida married 24-year-old Jim Driscoll. Together, they built a home in Ozark County and had 7 children. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for how I pronounce some of these names. They had 3 daughters and 4 sons: Jesse, Artie, Dewey, Clarence. I don't know if it's Levada or Levada. I don't know if it's a Lama or a Lama. And Charlie. Unlike many families of that time, Jim didn't make his living through farming. He was a blacksmith, a trade that made him an important part of his small community. Ida kept the home and raised the children. But tragedy struck in 1913 when their 6-year-old son, Clarence, passed away. No record remains of what caused his death, nor where he was buried. I believe he is in an unmarked grave with his parents in Trail Cemetery. 7 years later, in 1920, grief came again. Jim passed away on July 28, 1920, at only 45 years old. There were no obituaries, no death certificate. Surprising for a man so well known and respected in his town. His skill as the local blacksmith would have made him a familiar face to nearly everyone. Jim was laid to rest in Trail Cemetery in Ozark County, Missouri. His parents, John and Sarah, are also buried there, somewhere in unmarked graves. After losing Jim, Ida remained in Ozark County. The 1930 census shows her living with her youngest son, 17-year-old Charlie, in the home of her daughter, Artie Collins. Artie's life had already been marked by loss. Her first husband, Arthur Hagen, had passed away, leaving her with 2 young children. She later remarried a man named James Franklin Collins, and together they had 1 daughter with another child on the way. But in 1931, tragedy struck again. Artie died at the age of 30 while giving birth to her 4th child. I don't believe that the baby boy survived, and this unfortunately left her first 2 children orphans. By 1940, Ida was in her 60s. She had her own home again, and her daughter, Levada, and son-in-law, Thomas Kirkland, had moved in. Living with them also were Artie's surviving children, Mabel and Glaine Hagen. Both were teenagers working to support themselves. Glaine was listed as a farm laborer, while Mabel was just beginning her working life. Not long after that census was taken, Ida's own long life came to a close. She passed away on March 12, 1943, at the age of 67, after a lengthy illness with tuberculosis, known at the time as consumption. She was laid to rest beside her husband Jim in Trail Cemetery, beneath a stone that reads simply, "At Rest." Their story is one of family, of blended roots, hard work, and quiet endurance in the Ozarks. My family tree shows that I am not related to Ida, but I am related to Jim. He is my 10th cousin, twice removed. Thank you for watching. Rest in peace, Jim and Ida.